On this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast, David and I are talking cork soakers, Animal House, the Catalina Wine Mixer, and the history of NADA. All that and more on this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. Welcome in to episode 033 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice, and with me, as always, is David Bertoncini.
Hello.
How you doing, David?
I love the intro, man. It's amazing. It's cool. This is always a good time. So, you know, we're getting ready for our little trip to Vegas and taking the podcast on the road. Just you know, it's an exciting moment. We're all just getting all ready for it. We're recording a little late in the afternoon on Tuesday because we were diligently preparing for lots and lots of activities we got going on out there in Vegas. Podcast activities, not gambling activities. We had talked about that in recording clip number 1. Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum-bum.
Yeah, little technical difficulties again, trying to get everything figured out. So talking about technical difficulties, we had the same issue last week, but I think that's what's so cool about the Modern Dealer Podcast. It is something that we just do on the fly. We don't have a lot of editing, starting, stopping. I mean, we just let her rip. So I know we've talked about that before, but this week, this episode, we are going to be talking about the National Automobile Dealers Association. So as you know, we're going out to NADA in Las Vegas. I'm going to be taking off on Friday, coming back on Sunday, a quick in and out. We're going to be spending some time with a few different people that we're going to be doing some interviews, just kind of connecting with some people within the industry. So we're super excited about that. Speaking about having some guests coming in, we are going to be bringing the Modern Dealer Podcast studio to Las Vegas, right? So one of the things that I've been able to do, you know, being a technology guy and kind of a geek or a nerd when it comes to gear, is really trying to figure out how am I going to take this podcast studio on the road, and that has some challenges. So the last week or so, I've been trying to figure it out.
I was going to say we could just put it all in a pod and ship it out there now, right? And hopefully it makes it there on time by Saturday, which clearly David didn't like that idea. I said, hey, let's put it all on a pallet. Yeah, he wasn't going for that one either. So the solution was, instead of trying to pack up all their shit and put it on a pallet, we decided to...
We are bringing we've created a mobile MDP studio. So instead of using... the Canon cameras that we usually do, and the blue Yeti casters, and this setup, we are actually converting to a mobile setup. We're going to be using 2 iPhone 11s, and to kind of get a little nerdy on it, we're going to be using Filmic Pro as the app to be able to record on the iPhone 11, not just using one lens, but you can actually record 2 lenses at the same time, so we can get a kind of a wide angle and a tight shot. So they'll give us 4 videos to kind of edit into our recording. One of the challenges that I've had is trying to get good audio, which is always kind of a challenge, and that's why we went to the Yeti casters. These work really well. Not super high end, but it really gives us a good podcast sound. And I'm hoping to do the same thing with the Shure MV88 Plus, which gives us the ability to get a good sound directly on an iPhone. So that's going to be the mobile MDP studio. We've got a couple iPhone 11s and some Shure MV88s. Once you have the opportunity to see that, hopefully it'll come across pretty good.
Well, David, all the equipment, which it's amazing to use because we sound great, we look good. And there's no filters that we're using, so you're getting the real deal when it comes to what Dave and I. And for those that are actually going to meet us out in Vegas and get to interact and do interviews and such, man, you'll see this is the mobile setup. This is how we do it. We do it all in one shot, and it's fun. Taking it on the road with all the equipment, that's going to be a challenge, but hey, we got a plan, and pack it up in the carry-on, and
yeah, it should be great.
Go.
Yeah, it should be really cool. So with NADA, so we're going to be talking. That's going to be our main topic today. Is going to be the National Automobiles Association, and I think a lot of people associate NADA one of two different ways. One, the NADA show, which that's where we're going in Las Vegas this weekend, or the NADA guides, the used car valuation guide. Used to be the same company. It was created by the same company. They split off a few years ago, but a long history with the NADA, National Automobiles Association, going back to the early 1900s, and it's really interesting to learn all of the different ways the NADA organization has been impacted, by some very historical events.
Historical events from all the way from the Great Depression all the way up to 9/11 and everything in between. We'll get into the bullet points of that and what it's meant. But one of the bullet points, which I almost had some. Speaking of bullets, I almost had some bulletproof coffee.
Oh, did you?
Because I was talking about it so much these past couple of days. I'm like, man, I think I might do the bulletproof coffee again from Black Crow, but I didn't make it. But I did pick up this bad boy, big cylinder of Kawa coffee.
Is that a venti?
It is. No, they just do like
extra large, like normal.
No, they just do small or large. This is the large.
Okay.
Yeah, they make it really simple. It's like big or small, left or right, up or down. It's not like It's Starbucks with their fancy
tall, grande, venti.
Yeah, with their their lexicon there at Starbucks. But the good news is it's not just regular coffee. This is an Americano, which has got several shots. I think 4, but I think she threw in an extra shot, so 5. And I'm bouncing off the walls, man. There was NA, and I was writing NADA, and I think I put about 12 different Ds on the NA. I was stuttering as I was writing because that's how zooted with caffeine. So for your 16 cups, this was equivalent to probably like 7 in just one shot.
Yeah, you'd have to say, 5 shots
7
in
or
there.
8, yeah.
Yep.
That's a lot of coffee.
Yeah, so ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Speaking of some extra dings, did I tell you my sock game I got going on?
No.
Oh, man. So
we skipped that. Actually, last episode, we skipped a couple things. We skipped the Analytics 2020. We skipped the sock game. But, I was pretty excited about learning about ClickFunnels. And it was pretty cool. So it was a really neat episode. So if you haven't checked that out, please go back. Episode 033, ClickFunnels. 032. ClickFunnels, really cool episode, learning about something that you can be utilizing at your dealership for your digital marketing, for sure.
You just had somebody call you asking about a landing page.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I use WordPress. I'm like, use ClickFunnels. Get an affiliate. But no, speaking of sock games, so I had to go with a classic 1980s sock, and it says college, and college is the sweatshirt that John Belushi wore in Animal House.
Bing, bing, bang.
So going back to the good old days of Animal House, gotta love that show, John Belushi, or that movie with John Belushi, and it was some cool stuff. So I saw these socks. I'm like, man, gotta have the college.
And it's actually pretty appropriate because one of the things that NADA has done in the past is they've created the automotive school, right, with the Northwood University in Midland, Michigan, October 1971. Was funded by NADA, so pretty appropriate talking about automotive education.
We know somebody that did attend Northwood, the Florida location down there in South Florida, Mr. Justin McNulty. He attended that college down there as putting him on the general manager dealer track that he is now arrived to. So
awesome.
Good stuff there for him. But yeah, that would be the college socks of all colleges.
Yeah.
So college in general.
Yeah.
See, I play no as no logos as Burton Senior logoless unless it's the Modern Dealer podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Super excited about what we've been able to grow the Modern Dealer podcast to. So very excited about being able to bring this to NADA, and it looks like we might be bringing the Modern Dealer podcast to Digital Dealer in April. We're actually going to be chatting with the folks at Digital Dealer about seeing how we might be able to partner with them. So very excited about that opportunity. Every single week we're gaining subscribers, and I guess this might be a good time to let people know.
Yeah, if you're new to the Modern Dealer podcast, this is your first time checking it out, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be plugged into your AirPods or right into your face on the screen. We appreciate that time. And as I said, this is your first time, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to turn on notifications.
Ding!
So you're alerted every time we put out new content, and each week we do put out new content with a new episode of the Modern Dealer podcast. And with that being said,
so we record Tuesdays. We put out new content usually on Thursdays, Friday if it gets a little bit too busy. And we're not going to blow you up with a bunch of different notifications. Our content is pretty straightforward on our the Modern Dealer podcast channel. We might this week have a few extra episodes from NADA. So we're going to have 033, which is today. That's going to come out on Thursday, and then we're going to do some recording while we're there with the MDP mobile studio, and maybe put out a couple smaller episodes. And we'll do a full live episode while we're there, and then we'll come back Tuesday next week for the official 034 episode and do an NADA recap. So it's going to be a lot of work, going to be a lot of time. But very cool for the Modern Dealer podcast. And speaking about the Modern Dealer podcast, you had connected with somebody kind of from our past recently from the Modern Dealer podcast.
Yeah, reached out to me on my LinkedIn, and it was Mr. Reggie Vaughn, which is one of our mentors and now super fan of the Modern Dealer podcast. He's living in South Carolina, making some drives, and said he's got like a 4-hour drive, and he plugs in a Modern Dealer podcast and just kind of binge listens and watches episode after episode. But Reggie, David, and myself, we go back to the 90s with Southeast Toyota, and Reggie was one of the Southeast Toyota SET trainers. And he had asked me, do you remember me? I'm like, yeah, man, of course I do. You trained me everything. I was just a rookie, just got into the car business and was learning everything to learn about a 98, that was the new style, next generation Corolla was the 98 Corolla. And we were talking crumple zones and force limiters and pretensioners. And I was amazed by that versus the F-18s I was just working on. I'm like, oh, this Corolla is way cooler than an F-18. It's got these
Those were really cool. Those ride and drives, I loved them. I remember my first one was the 97 Camry ride and drive, learning all about the new body style.
Yeah, that was a new body style in 97. Yep. And no, it was just great stuff. And it was so awesome to hear from Reggie because very inspired by you, since I know you're watching and listening to the show, but we're very inspired and looking forward to having you on the show here in the next few weeks. I know you've got a lot of commitments you do nationwide with your business, and we'll be talking about your company and how it is affecting the industry and what is contributing to the automobile industry. Awesome. Just like the Modern Dealer podcast. I mean, I tell you what, David, was so cool is that I reached out to a couple of the speakers for NADA, just inquiring about them, asking if they'd like to, if we can interview them and just talk about some of the things on the Modern Dealer podcast. And the response was overwhelming.
Awesome.
How excited people were to be part of our community, and our community is like I said, it's really growing. It feels good that we've gotten to this
Modern Dealer Nation.
Modern Dealer Nation. Oh, like the Vader Nation. Modern Dealer Nation. It is nationwide, coast to coast. We are hitting you all over the place. So
that's very cool. It's very good feedback, and I get the same thing too. I mean, we get to. I had a guest in the office last week, and I'll be connecting with him at NADA about a potential a business partnership going forward, and just the opportunity to leverage the Modern Dealer podcast to connect with different a lot of people within the industry. So it's super cool, very exciting. We're 14 minutes into the first segment. Our main topic. Let's just chat a little bit about the main topic, which is NADA, National Automobile Dealers Association. So. The National Automobile Dealers Association, NADA, is an American trade organization representing nearly 16,500 franchise new car and truck dealerships, both domestic and foreign. Established in 1917, the organization is based in Tysons Corner, Virginia, as the automotive retail industry's primary trade association. NADA monitors federal legislation and regulations regulation affecting dealerships and publishes forecasts and reports about industry trends. American Truck Dealers, established in 1970, is a division of NADA representing nearly 1,800 heavy and medium-duty truck dealerships throughout the United States. So that's a little history about NADA and what it is. So it's an organization that really represents all of the new car, or most of all of the new car and truck dealerships in the United States, and specifically in how this industry as an organization is being affected by legislation and regulation. And it's this group, this organization, that's out there fighting for and protecting the dealerships and the industry that we love, the automotive industry. It really is amazing how large this industry is and how many facets the automobile industry touches. So much outside of really where we've spent our time. Now, we've talked about this before with the Modern Dealer podcast, that our core really is in the tier 3 at the dealership level: salespeople, sales managers, general sales managers, finance managers. In the sales, kind of in the sales arena, right? But we've also kind of talked a little bit about fixed operations. We've had a couple guests on from fixed operations and other things outside of sales. But that's kind of where our core is. But it's really cool now to be able to to touch in different areas, such as legal and all the different areas that NADA really touches.
Yeah, different legislation areas and such. But going back to the NADA show itself, the first show was in Chicago in 1918. And they had basically they were doing it annually for 40 years, but they missed 1 year. I think it was during the Great Depression. I know they did miss that year once, but and then we read about something that they couldn't have organized meetings more than 50 people.
Yeah, that was
nuts, man.
That was pretty crazy.
But yeah, some of the big names that have spoken at NADA. You've had several presidents, from Ronald Reagan, Lyndon Johnson, Henry Ford II, Lee Iacocca, Ross Perot. Ross wasn't a president, but he was a presidential elect or candidate.
Candidate.
Yeah. Both Bushes. Bill and I think Hillary.
Hillary Clinton. Actually, there was a little bit of controversy, right?
Because she took a few bucks. $325,000 for a keynote, which is a little above Gary V's market. Gary V's a quarter, but she was $325,000.
It was January 2014. Hillary Clinton delivered a keynote address at the NADA convention in New Orleans. She received a fee of $325,000, and the appearance received media coverage. Subsequently, due to her interest in paid speeches following her resignation as Secretary of State and prior to the beginning of her presidential campaign run in 2016. Pretty interesting stuff. Yeah,
I thought the hey, getting paid to do a speech. I think Obama, after he got out of office, he got paid $400,000 to do a keynote. So it's not uncommon. These guys need money too, right?
Yep, absolutely.
They're on the presidential retirement pay afterward, which I think was only like $115,000 or $120,000 a year. No, it was $400,000. It was like $400,000 a year. That's what it was. Right. That's what it was after their presidential time was up. But I think they got a raise recently. But we try to stay away from the politics side of it. We're just brushing very lightly on the surface on just some of those keynote speakers. But you've had some very important people that and U.S. history that have spoken at NADA. Lee Iacocca. That's obviously he's he's Chrysler royalty there. So.
And going back to Ford and the original Mustang. There's a lot of great. Speaking of that, actually he had a small role in Ford versus Ferrari. So if you haven't seen that movie, he makes
see that, man.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I actually didn't see the whole thing. I saw about half of it. So I need to finish watching the other half. But but it was pretty good. It was good. It's kind of cool to see the automotive industry, a story from the automotive industry. on the big screen, so that was pretty cool. So going back to the history, 1917, we talked about NADA starting, and it started actually with a group of 30 automobile dealerships in Chicago. They met and formed an association in Washington, D.C., following a proposed 5% luxury tax increase on all vehicles. So really that's the beginnings of NADA, really goes back to making sure that the automotive industry is protected from a lot of taxes and legislation. So their goal was to convince members of Congress that automobiles were mass consumer goods, not luxury items, right?
Or yeah, because it was 1917, and it was just like, oh, that's a luxury to have a car.
Yeah.
You need a horse and buggy.
Yeah.
You know, if it stay out in Pennsylvania, that'd be the case today. But unfortunately, we needed automobiles, and it's a mass consumer goods. Just imagine if your iPhone, I'm pretty sure there's got to be some sort of taxes we pay. Oh, there is. If you ever look at your bill, there's probably some sort of
I'm sure there's taxes
massive taxes we pay for. Luxury smartphone tax or something like
probably.
that. Like looking at a hotel bill, bed tax, airport tax. Oh man, that's a mess. I tell you, I got stuck in up north. I didn't tell you that. Oh,
no. Actually, I think I saw something, a text
on Facebook,
or Facebook or something.
I ran up there for a dealer meeting. I left at 6 a.m, and the plan was to be back at 11:30 that night. So just a one-day trip.
In and out. They never work out. They never work out. They don't.
It didn't work out. It was great. Meeting went down. Everything was perfect. Jump back in the Uber. Get to the airport. Have my ticket in hand. Look up at go to TSA. Look up at the flight. Just double checking my gate, and it said canceled in red. And I was like, "What? Canceled?" And like a bunch of flights were like, they all started turning red, canceled, and it was because there were 70-mile-an-hour winds going across Providence, Rhode Island. So I didn't get off the ground, but I did get a straight flight out the next morning, so because I had a connecting flight originally, and that's why it took me 6 hours to get back.
The last time that happened to me, I went up to Panama City, or actually I think I was going to
New Orleans or
up in that area. I think it was Alabama. I was going to a small town in Alabama for a dealership meeting. Anyways, I think I flew into Panama City and just got a rental car, drove over, came back, dropped off my rental car. It was exactly the same thing. It was up in the morning, back at night, no problem. Went there, did the meeting, went back to the airport, and I think I had probably 3 or 4 hours that I had to kill. So I mean, I took my time, dropped off the rental car, got in, got to waiting for the airplane to come in, and then all of a sudden they canceled the flight. Wow. This is a small airport, so there's not like there wasn't a lot. So I go up there. So when can I catch the next flight? And they go, and I think it was maybe like maybe a Monday or Tuesday meeting. And so on Friday. What are you talking about? So the next time that you'd be able to leave here on a plane would be on Friday. And I said, you're kidding me. So that was
a small airport.
Yeah. There's nothing, and there's nothing else there's nothing else I can do. So I was stuck there. So I figured, okay, fine, whatever. I'll just go back to the rental car place, get a rental car, jump the car, because I think it's about a 7-hour drive or something. Right. I mean, it was late. I knew it was going to be like, driving in the middle of the night, which wasn't going to be fun, but, whatever. I get back home. So I get back to the rental car, and guess what?
No rental car.
No rental cars.
We're out of cars.
We're out of cars. So I go to every rental car in the entire thing. No rental car, no rental car, no rental car, rental car. So I have no rental cars.
They're like, you can't sit here. This seat's taken. And they're like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah,
every rental car? I'm sorry.
Every rental car. And so, I mean, I literally was stuck. So I ended up going back to the place that I dropped off my rental car to and explained the situation and said, do you have anything that you can rent me to allow me to get back to Tampa?
Was it a semi?
No, it wasn't a semi, but they gave me this piece of shit. I want to say it was like a Buick Regal, like 5-year-old Buick Regal.
We apologize to the Buick GMC dealers about that piece of shit.
A rental car that has 20,000 miles on it is pretty rough, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is like a 40 or 50,000 mile vehicle that was a few years old, stinky. And I drive 7 hours of this thing in the middle of the night. It was not fun.
Was it like from Rent-A-Wreck or something like that? There was a franchise called Rent-A-Wreck before.
Could have been that. It could have been that. So anyways, we're 24 minutes on the Modern Dealer podcast clock. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing wrapped up, but don't go away. We're going to talk more about NADA, get into a little bit of the history of the NADA Expo, the NADA show, as they call it now, a little bit more about the NADA guide, and then we're going to roll out with that. So anyways, be right back.
Getting a trade value should be easy, and our goal is to make it that way. In just minutes, you can receive a personalized trade-in value from Kelley Blue Book. To get started, tell us about your vehicle. Share a few vehicle details, then select your vehicle from the list provided. Confirm your vehicle's condition. You'll receive your vehicle's value estimate immediately, and you'll receive a trade value email containing a comprehensive trade-in value report. That's it. It's that easy. Share a few vehicle details and receive your vehicle's value.
Welcome back into the second segment of episode 033 of the Modern Dealer Podcast, and we are going to get into the history of NADA. But me and David Burton Sr. were talking on the break, reminding ourselves. So thank you for reminding me of that. Little
that
Saturday
episode,
night.
David and I are both SNL nerds. When you know what, SNL is so awesome.
It is.
I strive one day to get tickets from Lauren Michaels there to be in the studio audience. There's
cool.
only 250 people in that studio audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't think it's an easy thing to do, right?
No, it is not. I mean, you got to know somebody that knows somebody that really knows somebody.
Speaking of Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Fallon has a ride at Universal Studios. So a few weeks ago for my 50th birthday weekend, that's what I decided I wanted to do, was spend a few days at Universal Studios. I love that place. And they have the Jimmy Fallon ride there, which is pretty cool because as you're walking in, it kind of feels like you're there at 30 Rockefeller Center,
right,
going through the whole thing. So that's super funny. But seeing him on this Cork Soakers.
Because you go David Bertoncini, and then we brought up I was like, that does sound like the old Cork Soaker episode from Janet Jackson on there was actually hilarious. She couldn't keep a straight face because it was a live broadcast, and she was just like losing it. She was trying not to erupt in laughter.
Wasn't there another movie too with Joe Piscopo that talked about that as well? I can't remember what that is. Maybe we'll find it. We'll pop it in.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, super funny stuff. So the history of NADA. So we talked about in 1917, but 30 automobile dealers met in Chicago and formed the association. Their first goal was to make sure that they could successfully persuade Congress to reduce the proposed luxury tax to 3% from 5%. There's some other really interesting things that kind of align with different things at historic events, which I thought was pretty interesting. For example, they talked about, however, members were still unable to afford dues by 1932. So in 1928, the association's fixed amount membership dues were converted to a sliding scale based on dealerships' gross sales from the preceding year. However, members were still unable to afford dues, and by 1932, the Great Depression had nearly caused NADA to fail. So a little throwback to the Great Depression and how they've kind of gone through that. 1933, NADA publishes its first official used car guide, providing used car organizations headquarters to reduce rent expenditures.
So the first NADA book came out in 33, so it had like a 1925 Model T in there, and what the value was. But they didn't have any odometers, I don't think, back then.
Probably not.
They probably didn't have an odometer, so it was just like, well, how much is this 25 Model T worth? $20, I mean, can you imagine what that would have been like just to look It'd be cool to get a copy of like the first
cool. Yeah.
NADA book to show like, let's see what the 25 Model T was. Because how many cars did you have to choose from back then? Maybe a Mercedes, maybe?
You know what's crazy though? In 1933, NADA published its first official used car guide providing used car values for 21 regions to the United States to 40,000 subscribers.
So if you're in region 22, you're out. 22 to 50, you're out, man.
I mean, that's amazing, though, if you just think about that number. So this is 1933. So, I mean, the automobile had not been around that many decades at that point. I mean, this is almost 100 years ago. They had 21 regions and 40,000 subscribers by 1933. It's pretty amazing. It actually dropped 10,000 from 33 to 34 during, and then another thing here, during Prohibition, the association advocated on behalf of dealers who were affected by vehicle repossessions of violators of liquor laws in the 1930s. So that's pretty funny.
So if you're a moonshiner and you were hauling liquor and that was a violation,
they took your car.
I guess a DUI back then was... They didn't care about the DUIs. You could drive drunk all you want, but if you're hauling moonshine, you're out. You're done.
Yeah, that's funny. During World War II, NADA worked to reduce rationing and helped recruit mechanics. The association's 1943 convention was canceled because of a temporary ban on gatherings of 50 or more people.
I guess you couldn't have had Woodstock then. I mean, Woodstock came up 30 years later, and 20 years later, because that's 1943. That you couldn't have a gathering of 50 more people. So no rock concerts or nothing.
That's crazy, right?
That's horrible. I would have been a little crushed.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that was even a thing.
Yeah.
NADA was unable to hold large meetings again until 1947 in Atlantic City, where there were 6,500 attendees, representing 32,000 member dealers. What an amazing high numbers, considering that today they represent 16,500 dealers. And just the amount of dealers there were back in the 30s and 40s compared to the amount of dealers that are in existence today.
I think we missed the boat of growth, man, because it looks like
right?
They cut in half, more than half.
But I imagine each dealership was probably maybe selling a very small amount of cars compared to the amount of the average amount of sales per dealer today.
Right. Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
So another interesting bit of we talked a little bit about the National Auto Dealer Automotive Education Center in Northwood University campus in Midland, Michigan, in October 1971. By May 18th, 1973, was funded by the NADA members and features a hotel, offices, classroom, kitchen facilities, and used as a primary meeting and community space on campus.
Yeah, and they have a South Florida location too, because we had mentioned that a friend of ours, Justin McNulty, attended that. And got to achieve the general manager path, because that's trained to become a general manager, owner, operator, covering all aspects of operations of a dealer.
And that's a big part of them as an organization is their education. I did a little bit of research yesterday, watched a few different videos and about all the different education that is available from NADA. That's something I did not have the opportunity to go to. I would have loved to have that opportunity. So I think it's very cool.
A lot of our guests are speakers from the education series of NADA coming up. So we are joined by a lot of heavy hitters in the automobile industry and the education side, all the way from attorneys with, compliance as far as texting and messaging, from HR to cybersecurity. So, we've got a lot of interesting industries that you don't really think of on a daily basis that are supporting our industry in order to make it as successful as it is.
Yeah, with everything that's changing from a consumer protection standpoint, with all of the legislation, privacy concerns, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things dealers have to be paying attention to. I mean, it's not just about selling and servicing cars and taking care of customers. I mean, there's a lot that goes into running the business of an automobile dealership, and especially if you get into large dealership groups, 40 or 50 dealerships, it's big business for sure. And then you go into the publicly traded companies, which we had worked for a time with AutoNation. Big business for sure. A lot of interesting things that go around the automotive industry.
Yeah, you got a lot of other organizations to report to, and I didn't realize NADA was into legislation. And
well, it's funny, that is their core, right? And that's one of the things that we think about, kind of from our perspective, is the NADA show and the NADA book. The NADA book, we really, I mean, in our part of the country, we really don't utilize that from a used vehicle appraisal standpoint. We're looking at the Black Book, or at least back in the 90s, 2000s, we were looking at the Black Book. Having all of the data that's available now through different technologies, or available directly from the auction, to be able to see what these cars are running through and the actual values.
Well, let's get into history number 5. Let's talk about your history, David, with NADA back to 2000.
Yeah, that's funny, right? Now we're talking about, this is going to be your first trip out to an NADA to be able to participate in the show. And I think that you're going to come away from NADA and go, it's huge. It is gigantic. I mean, thousands of people. You have, so many different technology providers that's going to be, having booths in the expo hall. They actually have to have 2 different halls to be able to accommodate all of the different vendors that are going to be there. A lot of what you're going to see there is going to be different technology providers for the sales aspect of automotive, whether it's website providers, technology providers, marketing providers, advertising providers. And then also outside of that, everything that's going to be from a fixed operation standpoint, whether it's lighting or it's lifts or it's car washes,
airplanes,
yeah. I mean,
they sell helicopters and airplanes.
It's amazing. Yeah, you're going to have just an amazing group of vendors that sell into the automotive industry. Now, like you mentioned, my history with NADA is I had my first opportunity to go to and participate in an NADA Expo was back in 2000, and that was for ePencil with the Cardone Group.
That's what I was going to ask you. I said, isn't that when you met the Cardone Group and they saw?
Well, no, so it was prior to that.
Oh, okay.
It was
99.
99 when I first met with them and put our arrangement together, our partnership together, and then in 2000 we delivered it to the marketplace and we brought it out to NADA in 2000. So that's a 20-year anniversary to that point now. And it's amazing. It will be amazing to see, the transformation of technology in automotive. So, back then, the ePencil was really the pioneering desking technology, of the time, and so many different providers in that space, and how that has changed, over time.
It's and I've referred to this, and I always give you kudos because I like to refer to David as the godfather of digital retail by pioneering ePencil, and that being the forerunner of the desking tools. I mean, that led into so many other desking tools, from Compass with AutoNation, because basically that was your software.
It was. You look at the output of really any desking system of its type right now that's going to have multiple payment options, from lease payments to retail payments, utilizing a technology that can create all of those those payment options for consumers in a very quick amount of time. Actually, if you remember, back when I first created that product, I actually called it Quick Pencil before I named it ePencil. And really the goal was to be able to provide quick payments for consumers, and transparency, not only from a desking scenario, because I actually built it for BDC at first to be able to utilize with consumers that were calling in and contacting the dealership and utilizing transparency in pricing and payments to get a customer to schedule an appointment and bring that customer into, get that customer into the dealership. And it worked so well where customers were bringing in the worksheet that we would either fax or email to the customer, that they were bringing in our quick pencil worksheets with a payment circled, and that's what kind of moved us into this whole the whole circle and sign. The way that we created the presentation of numbers from salespeople, but really the whole goal was to be able to speed that entire process and then empower a salesperson to be able to stay in the close longer. Right.
I was speaking to a dealer today, just is process, and I'm like, what is the NADA time frame standard for the length it takes to do a car deal? And I think it's still hovering around 4 hours.
Yeah.
Even with technology now, it still takes us 4 hours to deliver a car. And I was explaining to the dealer, I said, you need to actually put the appraisal process. The very first thing you do, if a customer's got a trade, let's start that first, because that's one of your big bottlenecks. And it's 30 minutes you're going to add to the process, and your customer is just coming out of their ether. A little off subject, but back to an NADA, because NADA does give us a lot of benchmark.
Oh yes,
as far
absolutely.
as like how long does it take to buy a car?
A lot of data, a lot of benchmarks.
Yep. So it's a definitely in addition to education and legislation. it's a data benchmark too.
Yep. They put out their I think they put out twice a year. The kind of statistics for the automotive industry in really every aspect, from new cars to used cars to gross profit to marketing dollars, the allocation of those marketing dollars. That's one of the things I like to look at is how the industry has changed from a advertising spend standpoint from traditional to digital, and how it's gone from a very small amount 20 years ago allocated towards digital marketing to now being in excess of 50% towards digital marketing, and then where that
dollar spend
is allocated to, whether it's paid search or third party or other internet type sources. So that's a really interesting thing to see, is how those types of things has changed. And thanks to NADA, we're able to track that information in kind of a consistent way.
Do you ever think when you think of something you've never done before, then you kind of compare your thought of something you've never done to like a movie? So my thought process of NADA reminds me of that movie Step Brothers, when they went to the Catalina Wine Mixer. Do you remember his brother? Do you ever seen this movie?
It's been a long time since I've seen it. Is that
so one of the
boats and hose?
Boats and hose. Boats and hose. You remember that? So the Catalina, the fucking Catalina Wine Mixer. Excited. And they were selling helicopters. So when somebody told me at NADA they sell aircraft and helicopters and stuff, and I'm like the fucking Catalina Wine Mixer? And I was like, so all I could think of was the Catalina Wine Mixer going through my head, since I'd never been there. So I'm experiencing this experience, and clips of movies in my head. I'm like, so NADA is like the Catalina Wine Mixer. Yeah. Cool, man. That will be.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
We got to do the little boats and hose clip there.
What's crazy too is what I remember most about NADA the first time is working a booth. So when you're working a booth, and a shout out to anybody that's working a booth this weekend at NADA, it is a tough job. You are on your feet all day long, 3 or 4 days. You're expected to go out and mix with different people, maybe go to different evening events, and then get back up, do it again the next day, and you're on your feet all day long. It's one of the things. It's a brutal job, but that's what NADA is. That's what it is to be working for a vendor. You got to get out there. You got to hustle. You got to work. It's just like what we used to do back in the day. When we were standing on the point, waiting for a customer to take that left-hand turn into the dealership. You get that first opportunity to sell that car, right?
I was waiting in between the cars. So I would sit out. I was sitting. I was sitting in between the cars, or I would sit in a car with. Didn't really want to run the AC too much because. I was trying to be respectful and just, hey, you got to do your time in the sun. And I collected lots of skin cancer.
I still have sunburn from back in the 90s still today.
Look at me, man.
I know.
I'm
still. You can see it.
So maybe that's just high blood pressure.
But you can actually see, so back when we were selling cars, we had to wear shirt and ties.
Oh, yeah. So we had the old redneck on for real.
You can still see it right there, right?
Yeah, the old red tan line from
right there.
Yep.
So good stuff.
In the military, we called that when you wore your hat and your face was tan from the face down. This line, it was a grinder reminder.
There
the
you
sunburn,
go.
The old grinder reminder, and that's what I thought of being on the black top of the dealership in Florida in the summer.
Oh man, I tell you, I think about that often. I mean, where you're sitting out there in that heat, you're waiting for a customer, shirt and tie, and you're sweating like crazy, and then you got to go out and make a good impression to a customer. I mean, it's tough sledding for sure. Anyway, so we're getting way off track here, but it's always
that's
fun.
That's fun, man.
That's what the modern dealer podcast is. So. We kind of covered everything that I wanted to get through for NADA. I think the last thing, kind of more recent news, in mid-2015, NADA sold its 82-year-old used car guide business to J.D. Powers and Associates. And then finally, in January 2017, NADA launched an information website to educate the public about the role of car dealers and to describe their economic impact. So a lot of really cool things that NADA has done. I'm very excited to get out there and learn a little bit more, connect with more people. If you are going to be out at NADA, please give us you can shoot us, shoot me a text directly, 727-514-2097. You can send an email to david@themoderndealerpodcast.com, and that'll go to both of us.
David squared.
David's, yeah. And we love to connect with you and say hi, and maybe have you do a quick segment on the Modern Dealer Podcast. So I think that's all Actually, we probably need to cover a couple of things that we missed last week, which is
Google Analytics
2020. Yeah. So what I want to talk about today with Google Analytics 2020 is kind of a analytics adjacent product that's available. It's actually inside the Google Analytics platform, and it's called Google Optimize. This is a new product that Google released a couple years ago as an enhancement to the Google Analytics platform. We actually did a case study early days with Google Optimize with one of our business partners, Mighty Hive. So if you do a quick search for Mighty Hive and Entice on Google, you can find our Google Optimize case study. But really what Google Optimize allows you to do is right on your website, you have the ability to create different tests. And specifically what you have the ability to do through Google Tag Manager is you can go into any part of your website and you can test different scenarios. And what I mean by different scenarios, for example, let's say on your search results page, you're scratching your head thinking, well, would it be better to have my main call to action be red or be green? Now, there's a lot of debate on whether it should be a red button or it should be a green button, right? Just like back in the old days with doing Foursquare, should it be a red Sharpie or should it be a green Sharpie? Red means no, green means go.
I was a blue Sharpie guy, just to be proud of. I still have a stack of blue Sharpies. They're a little bit dried up, but I was definitely the blue Sharpie guy. But the old red pill or blue pill, which one's going to work for your website?
Now, wouldn't it have been cool to know if you used a blue Sharpie versus using a green Sharpie, statistically, which one allowed you to close better? It would be cool to know that, because otherwise you're just scratching your head going, I use a blue Sharpie because I can sell more cars, right?
I think I was a pretty good closer, boss.
There's no question about that.
I was
but
selling
would you
cars
have been
like
better with a green one?
Well,
you don't know.
I don't know.
See, what Google Optimize allows you to do is to actually know. So, for example, on the SRP or your VDP, let's say that you wanted to run a test for a green button versus a red button. So what Google Optimize does allows you to create these tests, and it will serve up a green button or a red button to periodically to customers as they visit your dealership website, and it will track the success of it. It will determine based on how many impressions, how many click-throughs, and then ultimately how many conversions, which one actually provides a better converting solution or scenario. Same thing for anything else. For example, let's say you wanted to do something as simple as changing the text that's in the button. Maybe you want to go get best price in that SRP, or VDP button, or you want to go unlock price. So if you want to do some tests, you can use Google Optimize. You can set up the tests, and inside of Google Tag Manager, you have the ability to have these things automatically change, whether it's the text inside a button, or maybe it is the color of the button, or maybe you want to change the image from the left side to the right side. I mean, you can get very specific on whatever type of tests you want to run inside of Google Optimize. Now, you may be limited by the flexibility of your website platform. If you're at a dealer.com or a DealerOn or a CDK, maybe you can't move the placement of the image itself. But with Google Tag Manager and Google Optimize, you would be able to go in there and overwrite the CSS styling of individual buttons. You can even maybe serve up different images for those CTAs. So anyways, Google Analytics 2020. The tip for episode 033 is Google Optimize. If you're interested in learning more, please reach out to me. You can reach me at david@themoderndealerpodcast.com, and I'd be happy to share anything you might want to know about Google Optimize. So that is going to move us into about 2 minutes or so left for Bert's 3 tips.
Real quick on the 3 tips. So just obviously we're talking about NADA. So some things that so this is more like a did you know?
Yeah.
This wouldn't be so many 3 tips, but more than did you know is the legislative support of NADA, and maybe as a dealer, that's just something good that we can always support NADA about is making sure some of these regulations are helped by, as far as emissions regulations and MPGs. There's a lot of things that NADA regulates, but secondly is actually the NADA educational series.
Yeah.
So you said there were some videos and stuff like that
yes,
you can
there
watch.
There's plenty. You can just go to YouTube and type, just search out NADA. You're going to find their YouTube channel. They got a lot of different videos, a lot of content that's available that you can participate in. If you're interested in learning more about the automotive industry, you can check them out there.
So right there. And then also third, being a data provider of so many different statistics and things that we use in our industry to explain to customers. And of course, to help us better gauge ourselves to improve. If we know that this is the industry average, it takes 4 hours to sell a car, can we get it down to 90 minutes?
Yep.
I mean,
and what's cool too is that as a dealer, you should be benchmarking yourself to the industry for PVR, maybe new car, used car split, or where you're investing your advertising dollars. Maybe your per new vehicle retail cost. And how you compare to the industry. It's a lot of the information that you might be getting from your 20 group, but it's also a great source to be able to make that comparison. So Bert's 3 tips, wrapping that up. We're going to be out at NADA again. I know we've gone over it and over and over it.
We just want you guys to come out and say hello. Just do that. Just stop by the booth. The big old 360 booth will be inside of. There's going to be 2 of them in the expo hall. Yep. Come find us. You can't miss that beautiful display. So come catch us, say hello, come interact, do a selfie with us. Let's post it. Let's get it on social. Whatever you guys need to do to let's get the message out and get us out there. And we'll see you at the Catalina Wine Mixer.
Catalina Wine Mixer, absolutely.
The NADA Catalina Wine Mixer. But other than that.
Okay, we're going to get this thing wrapped up. So I appreciate it, David. Thanks so much for being a part of this. So for David and
David,
that's a wrap.
Where's David.